The space station floated in the darkness between three distant suns. It was called Vera Prime, and it was the largest structure ever built by any species in the known galaxy. Today, more than 50,000 aliens had gathered in its central arena. They came from 100 different worlds, and they all came to watch the same thing: the right of supremacy. This ancient tournament happened once every 10 cycles. Species sent their greatest warriors to fight in single combat. The winners earned respect. The losers were forgotten. For 300 cycles, one empire had dominated this event. The Zorvani had never lost. Princess Scyvalith Zorvani stood in the preparation chamber, looking at herself in a mirror made of liquid crystal. She was tall, nearly 8 feet, with deep purple skin that shimmered like metal. She had 4 arms, each one ending in fingers tipped with claws that could cut through steel. Her eyes were golden, and they held the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. She was the heir to the Zorvani Empire, ruler of 47 planets, and commander of the largest fleet in the galaxy. She had fought in the right 12 times. She had won 12 times. Today would be her 13th victory. Her advisor, an elderly Zorvani named Keth, entered the chamber. He walked slowly, his 4 arms folded behind his back in the traditional posture of respect. "Your Highness," he said, "the human representative has arrived." Scyvalith did not turn from the mirror. "Human? I do not know this species." "They are new to the Galactic Council, Your Highness. They were admitted only 3 cycles ago. A small species from a single planet called Earth." "And they dare to challenge me?" Scyvalith finally turned, her golden eyes showing amusement. "What do we know of them?" It showed a creature that made Scyvalith laugh out loud. It was small, barely 6 feet tall. It had only 2 arms. Its skin looked soft and easily damaged. It had no claws, no natural armor, no visible weapons of any kind. "This is their warrior?" Scyvalith asked, unable to hide her smile. "They call him Danny Cole. He holds a rank called Marine in their military structure. Our intelligence suggests he has combat experience, but nothing remarkable by galactic standards." Scyvalith waved her upper right hand dismissively. "This will be over quickly, perhaps too quickly. The crowd expects entertainment." "Your Highness," Keth said carefully, "I feel I should mention something. Our scientists have studied human biology. They have an unusual trait. They evolved as what is called persistence hunters. They would chase prey for many hours until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. They have remarkable endurance." Scyvalith laughed again. "What good is endurance when my claws will open his chest in the first seconds? You worry too much, old friend. Prepare my ceremonial armor. I wish to look impressive when I crush this human." Keth bowed and left the chamber, but his face showed concern that the princess did not notice. In another part of the station, Danny Cole sat alone in a small room. He was 34 years old, with short brown hair and a face that showed the marks of a hard life. A scar ran from his left eyebrow to his cheek, a reminder of a mission that had gone wrong in a desert far from here. He was not a large man. He was not particularly fast or strong by the standards of most species he had seen on this station. But he had something that the aliens did not understand. He had grown up on a planet where everything was trying to kill you. He had survived wars, diseases, accidents, and enemies both human and otherwise. He had been chosen for this mission, not because he was the best fighter on Earth. He had been chosen because he never gave up. His commanders had tested hundreds of soldiers. They had pushed them to their limits and beyond. Danny was the one who kept going when everyone else stopped. A door opened, and a woman in a formal uniform entered. Her name was Katie Morris, and she was the human ambassador to the Galactic Council. "How are you feeling?" she asked. Danny looked up at her, ready. "The Zorvani princess is the favorite to win the entire tournament. She's never lost a match. Her species is faster, stronger, and more naturally equipped for combat than we are. I know. The council members are laughing at us for entering. They think this is a joke. I know that too. Katie sat down across from him. Danny, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about winning or losing. The way you perform today will shape how the galaxy sees humanity for generations. If you lose badly, we'll be seen as weak. Other species might think we're easy targets. Danny nodded slowly. And if I win? If you win against the undefeated Zorvani princess, everything changes. But honestly, nobody expects that. Just make it a good fight. Show them we're not pushovers. Danny stood up and stretched his muscles. I'll do my best. The arena was massive. The ceiling was so high that clouds actually formed near the top. The floor was made of a special material that could repair itself after damage. 50,000 aliens sat in seats that rose up in every direction, creating a bowl of watching eyes. When Princess Sivalith entered, the crowd roared with approval. She was their champion. She walked with her 4 arms spread wide, accepting their praise like it was her natural right. Then Danny Cole entered from the opposite side. The roar turned to laughter. He looked so small compared to the alien princess. He wore simple combat clothing, nothing fancy. He carried no weapons, as the rules required. He walked calmly to the center of the arena and stood there, waiting. Sivalith approached him, circling slowly, like a predator examining prey. The crowd quieted, wanting to hear what she would say. So this is humanity's champion, she said, her voice carrying through the arena speakers. I have seen insects on my homeworld that looked more dangerous than you. Danny said nothing. You have no claws, she continued, holding up her own razor-sharp fingers. No fangs, no armor, no natural weapons of any kind. Your skin is soft. Your bones are fragile. You are small and weak and completely alone. She leaned down until her golden eyes were level with his. What made you think you belonged here, little creature? What made you think you could stand against me? Danny looked at her calmly. His brown eyes showed no fear, no anger, nothing at all that she expected. I'm here because someone had to be, he said quietly, and I don't need claws to finish what I start. Sivalith threw back her head and laughed. The crowd laughed with her. Finish what you start, she repeated. Little human, you will not even survive the first minute. The arena signal sounded. The fight was about to begin. Princess Sivalith raised all 4 of her arms, her claws gleaming in the light. Danny Cole simply raised his fists and waited. The galaxy was about to learn something important about humans. They were about to learn why you should never mock a species that had survived ice ages, plagues, and 2 world wars. They were about to learn what it meant to face someone who simply refused to lose. But they didn't know that yet. All they saw was a small, soft creature standing in front of an alien warrior princess. And they laughed. The signal echoed through the arena, a deep sound that vibrated through the floor and into the bones of every creature present. The fight had officially begun. Princess Sivalith moved first. She was fast, faster than anything Danny had ever seen. Her body became a blur of purple skin and flashing claws. She crossed the distance between them in less than a second, all 4 arms slashing in patterns designed to cut an opponent into pieces. Danny was not fast enough to dodge completely. He knew that before the fight even started, so he did something else. He moved just enough. Her upper right claw cut across his shoulder, opening a wound that immediately began to bleed. Her lower left claw sliced his forearm. The crowd cheered as red human blood splattered across the arena floor. But Danny was still standing. He had moved at the last moment, turning what should have been killing blows into surface wounds. It hurt, It hurt badly, but he was alive. And now he knew something important. He knew how she moved. Scythelith spun around, surprised that the human had not fallen. She attacked again, faster this time, her golden eyes filled with irritation. How dare this creature still be breathing? Danny took more cuts. His left leg, his right side, his back when he turned too slowly. Blood ran from half a dozen wounds, soaking his simple clothing and dripping onto the self-repairing floor. The arena's surface absorbed the blood, cleaning itself automatically. The crowd was still cheering, but some of them had grown quieter. The humans should be dead by now. Any other species would be dead by now. Why was he still standing? Scythelith paused, breathing slightly harder than normal. She had expected this to be over in seconds. It had been almost a full minute, and the human was still on his feet. Wounded, bleeding, but standing. "You are more durable than I expected," she admitted. "But durability means nothing if you cannot fight back. You have not landed a single blow." Danny wiped blood from his eyes. "Not yet," he said. He said it so calmly that it made Scythelith hesitate for just a moment. There was something in his voice that she did not like. It was the voice of someone who was not surprised by what was happening. It was the voice of someone who had expected this. She attacked again, determined to end this embarrassment. Her claws moved in complex patterns that had defeated warriors from species known for their combat abilities. She had killed Gorvin battlemasters with these techniques. She had cut down Zelothi champions who were born with blades in their hands. Danny kept moving. He did not try to block her attacks, which would have been impossible. He did not try to match her speed, which would have been foolish. Instead, he seemed to flow around her strikes, taking damage when necessary, but never taking the killing blow. And then, for the first time, he hit back. It was a simple punch, thrown at the exact moment when Scythelith's upper arms were extended too far. His fist connected with her ribs, and the sound it made echoed through the suddenly quiet arena. Scythelith stumbled backward, more shocked than hurt. No one had landed a blow on her in more than 50 cycles. Her armor-like skin had absorbed most of the impact, but she had felt it. She had actually felt it. "How?" she demanded. Danny did not answer. He was too busy breathing, too busy staying conscious through the pain of his wounds. But he raised his fists again and waited. The crowd had fallen almost completely silent now. Something was wrong. This was not how the fight was supposed to go. The human should have been dead 5 times over. Instead, he was still fighting, and he had actually hit the princess. Scythelith felt something cold in her stomach. It took her a moment to recognize the feeling, because she had not experienced it in so long. It was doubt. She pushed the feeling away and attacked with renewed fury. Her claws moved faster than before, driven by anger and wounded pride. She would end this, now. She would cut this human into so many pieces that they would need to collect him with a vacuum device. Danny took more wounds. A deep cut across his chest that made him gasp. A slash across his thigh that made him stumble. His blood was everywhere now, and his face had grown pale from the loss of it. But he kept moving. He kept watching her. He kept learning. And he kept hitting back. Another punch found her ribs. A kick connected with her knee joint, making her leg buckle for just a moment. An elbow strike caught her jaw when she leaned in too far. None of these blows were devastating. Against her armored skin, they were like being hit with soft pillows. But they were landing. Blow after blow after blow. The human was actually fighting back. 15 minutes passed, then 30. The crowd sat in stunned silence, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Princess Scythelith was breathing hard now. Her species was not built for long fights. The Zorvani had evolved as ambush predators on their home world. They were designed for quick, explosive attacks that killed prey instantly. Extended combat was not in their nature. But this human, this bleeding, wounded, half-dead human, showed no signs of slowing down. If anything, he seemed to be getting better. His movements were more precise now. He was reading her patterns, predicting her attacks, finding the tiny openings in her technique. "What are you?" Sibylith demanded between heavy breaths. Danny spat blood onto the floor. "I'm a human," he said, "and we don't know when to quit." She attacked again, but her arms were heavier now. Her strikes were slower. The cold feeling in her stomach had spread throughout her body, and she finally recognized it for what it really was: fear. She was afraid of this small, soft, bleeding creature. She was afraid because she was getting tired, and he was not. She was afraid because every minute that passed, he got a little better at fighting her, and she got a little worse. Somewhere in the crowd, Ambassador Katie Morris watched with tears streaming down her face. She had not expected Danny to survive this long. No one had expected Danny to survive this long. In the preparation chambers, old Keth watched through a viewing screen. His hands were shaking. He had tried to warn the princess about human endurance, but even he had not imagined anything like this. On the arena floor, Princess Sibylith looked at the human standing before her. His body was covered in wounds. His blood had formed pools around his feet. By all logic, by all reason, he should be dead or unconscious. But he was still standing, still fighting, still waiting for her next attack with those calm brown eyes that showed no fear at all. For the first time in her life, Princess Sibylith Zorvani understood what it meant to fight a human. It meant fighting something that would not stop, no matter how much it bled. It meant fighting something that would keep coming until one of you could no longer move. And she was beginning to realize which one of them that might be. The crowd remained silent. The laughter from the beginning of the fight seemed like a distant memory now. Nobody was laughing anymore. They were watching something impossible happen right in front of their eyes. They were watching a human refuse to lose. 1 hour. The fight had lasted 1 hour. In the history of the right of supremacy, no match had ever gone this long. Most fights ended in minutes. Some ended in seconds. The Zorvani princess had never needed more than 10 minutes to defeat any opponent. Now she stood in the center of the arena, her chest heaving with each breath, her forearms hanging heavy at her sides. Her purple skin, which had always shimmered with strength and health, now looked dull and tired. Sweat ran down her face and dripped onto the floor. Danny Cole stood across from her. He was a mess. His clothing was torn and soaked with blood. His left arm hung at a strange angle, broken in at least one place. Cuts covered almost every part of his body. His face was swollen, and one of his eyes had nearly closed from the damage. But he was still standing, and he was still breathing steadily. Sibylith could not understand it. She had hurt him badly, worse than she had hurt any opponent in her life. She had cut him deep and often. He should have collapsed from blood loss alone. He should have begged for mercy. He should have done anything except stand there, watching her with those patient eyes. "What is wrong with you?" she gasped. "Why won't you fall?" Danny shifted his weight slowly, adjusting his stance despite his broken arm. "This isn't my first bad day," he said. Sibylith lunged forward, but her movement was slow compared to the beginning of the fight. Her muscles burned with exhaustion. Her lungs screamed for air. Every part of her body begged her to stop, to rest, to end this torture. Danny sidestepped her attack. It was the first time he had completely avoided a strike instead of just reducing its damage. He was learning faster than she was slowing down, and that terrified her more than anything else. She swung with her upper arms, but he ducked beneath them. She slashed with her lower arms, but he stepped back just enough. And then he hit her again, this time with his good arm, driving his fist into her stomach with all the strength he had left. She doubled over, gasping. The crowd made a sound, a collective intake of breath from 50,000 throats. The undefeated princess had been hurt, not just touched, but actually hurt. Scythelith staggered backward, trying to create distance. Her vision was blurring at the edges. Her body was betraying her, shutting down systems to conserve energy. This was what happened to her species when they fought too long. They were not built for this. But humans were. She finally understood what old Kef had tried to tell her. Humans had evolved on a harsh world, where they had to hunt animals faster and stronger than themselves. They did not catch their prey by being quick. They caught it by following it for hours, sometimes days, until the prey simply could not run anymore. They were the ultimate endurance predators, and she had let herself be hunted. "You planned this," she said, forcing the words out between ragged breaths. "You let me hurt you. You let me tire myself out." Danny nodded slowly. "I couldn't beat you in speed or strength, so I had to beat you in time." "That is insane. You nearly died. You might still die from those wounds." "Maybe," Danny admitted, "but I'm still standing. Are you sure you can say the same in another hour?" Another hour. The thought made Scythelith want to scream. She could barely survive another minute, let alone another hour. Her body was at its absolute limit. She had nothing left. She attacked anyway because she was a princess of the Zorvani Empire, and she had never surrendered in her life. Her arms moved in the killing patterns she had learned since childhood. Her claws reached for the human's throat. Danny moved. It was not a fast movement, but it was precise. He had watched her use this technique at least 20 times during the fight. He knew exactly where her arms would go, and exactly where to not be. Her claws missed him by inches, and then he was inside her guard, closer than he had ever been. His broken arm was useless, but his good arm was enough. He wrapped it around her neck, not squeezing, just holding. "Yield," he said quietly. The arena was so silent that his whispered word carried to the first rows of seats. Scythelith struggled, but she had no strength left. Her forearms pushed against him, but they might as well have been made of paper. Her legs tried to kick, but they only trembled. "I will not," she hissed. "I am a princess of the Zorvani. I would rather die." "Then die tired," Danny said, "because I can stand here all night." It was a simple statement of fact. Despite everything, despite the blood loss and the broken bones and the countless wounds, the human showed no signs of wavering. He had found his position, and he would hold it until the stars burned out if he had to. Scythelith felt tears forming in her golden eyes. Not tears of pain, but tears of frustration. She had been so confident. She had mocked this creature in front of the entire galaxy. She had called him weak and small and worthless. And now he held her life in his hands. "How?" she whispered. "How is this possible?" Danny's voice was surprisingly gentle when he answered. "My grandmother lived through a war that killed 60 million of my people. 60 million, and we still didn't give up. My grandfather walked home from a frozen battlefield with no food, no supplies, for 200 miles through enemy territory. When he got home, his feet were black from the cold. They had to cut off 3 of his toes. And you know what he said about it?" Scythelith shook her head weakly. "He said it was a nice walk, but he was glad to be home." A strange sound escaped from Scythelith's throat. It might have been a laugh or a sob, she could not tell. "Your people are insane," she whispered. "Probably," Danny agreed, "but we're still here. After everything the universe has thrown at us, we're still here. And we'll still be here long after everyone else has given up." He loosened his grip slightly, not enough for her to escape, but enough to let her breathe easier. "You can yield," he said. There's no shame in losing to someone who simply refused to quit. Sivillith closed her eyes. She thought about her empire, her people, her pride. She thought about 300 cycles of dominance, of being the undefeated champions of the galaxy. She thought about all of it. And then she made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "I yield," she said. Her voice was quiet, but in the absolute silence of the arena, every single being heard it clearly. The undefeated princess had fallen, and the human, the small and soft and easily wounded human, had won. Danny released her gently, making sure she did not fall. Then his legs finally gave out, and he collapsed to his knees beside her. The adrenaline that had kept him going was fading fast. The full weight of his injuries was crashing down on him. But he had won. Humanity had won, and the galaxy would never look at them the same way again. The silence lasted for 10 heartbeats. Then 20. The 50,000 aliens in the arena sat frozen, unable to process what they had just witnessed. Their minds rejected the reality in front of their eyes. The Zorvani princess had lost. The undefeated champion had been defeated by a human, a species they had dismissed as insignificant. It was impossible. It was unthinkable. It had happened anyway. Princess Sivillith lay on the arena floor, her body refusing to move no matter how hard she commanded it. Her muscles had completely given out. Her forearms were spread across the ground like fallen branches. Her golden eyes stared up at the distant ceiling, seeing nothing. Danny Cole knelt beside her, his body swaying slightly as his vision faded in and out. Blood continued to drip from his countless wounds. His broken arm throbbed with every beat of his heart. Every breath sent sharp pain through his cracked ribs. He had won. Medical drones appeared from hidden panels in the arena walls, floating toward the 2 fallen warriors. One began scanning Danny immediately, its mechanical voice announcing his injuries in a clinical tone that seemed absurd after the brutal fight. Multiple lacerations, severe blood loss, fractured left radius and ulna, 3 cracked ribs, minor concussion. Recommend immediate medical attention. Danny waved the drone away with his good hand. "Give me a minute," he said. He turned to look at the princess lying beside him. Even exhausted and defeated, she was still beautiful in her alien way. Her purple skin had lost its shimmer, and her golden eyes had lost their arrogance, but there was something else in them now. Something he recognized. It was the look of someone whose entire world had just changed. "Why did you let me yield?" she asked weakly. "You could have killed me. The rules allow it." "I didn't come here to kill anyone. I came to show the galaxy what humans are made of." "By nearly dying yourself?" "If that's what it took, yes." Sivillith turned her head to look at him directly. "I do not understand your species. I do not understand how you can throw yourself into such pain, such damage, and still keep fighting. It goes against every instinct of survival." Danny was quiet for a moment, collecting his thoughts. Speaking was difficult when every breath felt like fire. "On my world," he said finally, "there's a story about a messenger who ran from a city called Marathon to another city called Athens. He ran to deliver news of a great victory in battle. He ran over 26 miles without stopping. When he arrived, he delivered his message, and then fell down dead from exhaustion." Sivillith stared at him. "That is a terrible story." "Maybe, but every year, millions of my people run that same distance, just to prove they can. We call it a marathon. We do it for fun." "For fun?" "Well, for challenge, for the feeling of pushing past what you thought was possible, for the pride of finishing something hard." Sivillith closed her eyes. "Your species is completely insane." "You said that before. You're probably right." The medical drones were becoming insistent now, circling around Danny and beeping urgently. His blood loss was becoming critical. He did not have much time before his body would simply shut down. But before he let them take him, he had something else to say. "Princess," he said, his voice growing weaker, "I want you to understand something. I didn't fight you because I hate your people. I didn't fight you to embarrass you or to make enemies. I fought you because humanity needed to prove itself. We're new out here among the stars. We're small and we're weak by galactic standards. Everyone looks at us and sees prey." He paused to catch his breath. "But we're not prey. We're survivors. We survived ice ages that covered half our planet. We survived plagues that killed most of our population. We survived wars against each other that were worse than anything the galaxy has ever seen. And we're still here. We're still standing. And we'll still be here long after everyone stops laughing at us." Scythelith opened her eyes again. The arrogance that had filled them at the beginning of the fight was completely gone. In its place was something else, something that looked almost like respect. "I mocked you," she said quietly. "I called you weak and worthless. I laughed at you in front of the entire galaxy. I know, and yet you showed me mercy. You let me yield with dignity instead of destroying me completely." Danny managed a small, painful smile. "That's the other thing about humans. We prefer making friends to making enemies. Fighting is exhausting." Despite everything, despite the pain and the humiliation, Scythelith found herself almost smiling in return. The crowd had finally started to react. Murmurs spread through the arena like waves across an ocean. Different species whispered to each other in dozens of languages, all asking the same questions. How had this happened? What did this mean? Was everything they believed about humans wrong? Ambassador Katie Morris had left her seat and was running toward the arena floor, her formal uniform flapping behind her. Tears still streamed down her face, but now they were tears of joy mixed with fear. Joy because Danny had won, fear because he looked like he was about to die. "Danny," she shouted as she reached him. "Danny, let the medics help you, please." He nodded weakly. "Okay, I think I made my point." The medical drones moved in immediately, surrounding him with a cocoon of healing light and emergency treatments. His vital signs were stabilizing, but he would need serious medical care to survive the night. As they lifted him onto a floating stretcher, he looked back at Princess Scythelith one last time. "I hope this is the beginning of something good between our peoples," he said. "I'd rather have you as a friend than an enemy." Then his eyes closed, and the drones carried him away. Scythelith lay alone on the arena floor for a long moment. Other Zorvani were rushing toward her now, her advisors and attendants and guards. Old Keth was among them, his face showing a mixture of concern and something that looked almost like vindication. "Your Highness," he said, kneeling beside her. "Can you move?" "Not yet," she admitted. "I have never been so tired in my entire life. The human pushed you beyond your limits. I tried to warn you about their endurance." "I know. I should have listened." Around them, the crowd was still buzzing with shocked conversation. The news of what had happened here would spread across the galaxy within hours. The undefeated Zorvani princess, defeated by a human. But Scythelith was no longer thinking about her reputation. She was thinking about what the human had said. About friendship instead of enemies. About being allies instead of rivals. She had entered this arena believing humans were insignificant creatures, barely worth noticing. She was leaving it with an entirely different understanding. "Keth," she said quietly, "I need you to arrange a meeting with the human ambassador, as soon as possible." Keth raised an eyebrow. "For what purpose, Your Highness?" Scythelith watched the medical drones carry Danny Cole out of the arena. He had nearly died to prove a point. He had suffered unimaginable pain to show the galaxy what his species was capable of. And then he had shown her mercy. "I have an apology to make," she said, and a proposal to offer. The fall of her pride was complete, but perhaps something better would rise in its place. 3 days had passed since the fight. Danny Cole lay in a medical pod in the human section of Vera Prime, his body wrapped in regeneration fields that slowly repaired the damage he had suffered. He had nearly died twice on the operating table. The doctors said it was a miracle he had survived at all. But he had survived, and the galaxy had not stopped talking about it. News of the fight had spread to every corner of known space. Recordings of the match had been viewed billions of times. Species that had never heard of Earth were now searching their databases for information about humans. The small, soft creatures from the single blue planet had become the most discussed topic in galactic history. Danny was sleeping when the door to his medical room opened. Ambassador Katie Morris entered quietly, her face showing a mixture of exhaustion and excitement. "Danny," she said softly, "are you awake?" He opened his eyes slowly. "Sort of. What's happening?" "The Galactic Council is holding a special session in 1 hour. Princess Sivalith has requested to address the assembly. She specifically asked that you be present if you're able to attend." Danny tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through his chest and arm. "Easy," Katie said, helping him settle back. "The doctors say you can attend in a hover chair if you feel up to it, but you don't have to. No one would blame you for resting." "What does she want to say?" "We don't know, but our intelligence suggests she's planning something significant. This could be very good or very bad for humanity." Danny thought about it for a moment. He remembered the way Sivalith had looked at him at the end of the fight. He remembered what he had said about friendship instead of enemies. "Help me get to that hover chair," he said. 1 hour later, Danny Cole floated into the Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council. The chamber was enormous, designed to hold representatives from every species in known space. Hundreds of different aliens filled the seats, their various bodies and faces creating a sea of impossible diversity. All eyes turned to Danny as he entered. Whispers filled the hall. This was the human who had defeated the undefeatable. This was the creature who had refused to die. He was placed in the human delegation section, next to Ambassador Morris and several other Earth officials. They all looked nervous. The Zorvani Empire was one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy. If Princess Sivalith had decided to take revenge for her humiliation, there was little humanity could do to stop her. The assembly fell silent as Princess Sivalith entered from the opposite side of the hall. She looked different than she had in the arena. She wore formal robes of deep purple and gold, the colors of the Zorvani royal family. Her forearms were folded in a posture of respect. Her golden eyes swept across the assembly until they found Danny Cole. She walked to the central speaking platform and stood there for a long moment, gathering her thoughts. 3 days ago, she began, her voice carrying through the hall, I fought a human warrior named Danny Cole in the right of supremacy. I entered that arena, believing I would achieve an easy victory. I entered that arena full of pride and contempt for a species I considered inferior. She paused, letting her words sink in. I was wrong. A murmur rippled through the assembly. A member of the Zorvani royal family admitting fault was almost unheard of. I mocked Danny Cole before the fight. I called him weak. I laughed at his lack of natural weapons, his soft skin, his small size. I believed that these things made humans lesser beings, unworthy of respect. She turned to look directly at Danny. I was foolish. Several Zorvani delegates looked uncomfortable. In that arena, I learned something that changed my understanding of the universe. I learned that humans do not survive despite their weaknesses. They survive because of a strength that cannot be seen from the outside. They have a spirit that refuses to break. They have a will that refuses to bend. They have a determination that makes them perhaps the most dangerous species I have ever encountered. Danny watched her speak, his expression unreadable. Danny Cole could have killed me. The rules allowed it. After everything I had said, after all my mockery and contempt, no one would have blamed him. But instead, he showed me mercy. He let me yield with dignity, and when it was over, he spoke of friendship instead of revenge. Sivillith's voice grew stronger. This is why I stand before you today, not to demand punishment for my defeat, not to make excuses for my failure. I stand here to do something that no member of my family has done in 300 cycles. She turned to face the human delegation directly. I apologize. The hall went completely silent. I apologize to Danny Cole for the words I spoke. I apologize to humanity for the contempt I showed. And I apologize to this assembly for believing that physical strength and natural weapons were the only measures of a species' worth. She walked toward the human section, her steps slow and deliberate. When she reached Danny's hover chair, she did something that made every Zorvani in the hall gasp. She bowed. It was a deep bow, the kind reserved for showing respect to an equal. No Zorvani royal had ever bowed to a member of another species. Danny Cole, she said, I formally request an alliance between the Zorvani Empire and Earth. Not because we pity your people, not because we wish to protect you. I request this alliance because I genuinely fear what would happen to any species foolish enough to become humanity's enemy. Danny looked at her for a long moment. Then, despite the pain it caused him, he smiled. We would be honored to be your allies, he said. Like I said before, we prefer making friends anyway. Fighting is exhausting. Sivillith actually laughed. It was a sound that no one in the assembly had ever heard from her before. Yes, she said, I discovered that myself. She turned back to the assembly. I call for an immediate vote to grant humanity full membership in the Galactic Council, not as a junior species to be guided and protected, but as equals to be respected. They have earned it, they have proven it. And I, for one, am grateful that they would rather be our friends than our enemies. The vote was held immediately. It was unanimous. Humanity had entered the galactic community as a joke, a small species from a single planet that no one took seriously. They left that day as equals, respected and perhaps even feared. And across the galaxy, in taverns and meeting halls and private homes, the story spread. The story of the human who refused to fall. The story of the princess who learned humility. The story of two species who found friendship instead of hatred. Danny Cole became a legend that day. Not because he was the strongest, or the fastest, or the most skilled warrior in the galaxy, but because he simply refused to lose. And that, the galaxy learned, was what it meant to be human. Years later, when historians wrote about the moment humanity became a true galactic power, they would trace it back to this day. They would write about the right of supremacy and the impossible victory. But mostly they would write about a simple lesson that the universe had been forced to learn. Never mock a human, because humans do not know when to quit, and that makes them the most dangerous species of all.